For those of you who watched the game yesterday, something may have stood out to you, like it did to me, and that's that Alabama, honestly, they look pretty bad. I mean, if you just look at the box score, it might not stand out, but they had to be gifted a touchdown and have Michigan make some pretty big errors, like missing a field goal and missing an extra point just to even be in this game at the end. But one guy from Alabama actually did more than just pull his own weight, and is probably the reason why they're even in this game to begin with. And that man is no other than James Burnip, the Alabama punter. And you remember that gifted touchdown that I talked about just a couple seconds ago? It really hasn't been that long. Well, yeah, that had come off of the foot of said Alabama punter, when naturally the returner tries to come up, field it, muffs it, and gives it back over to the rolling tide. And you see, that's just to get things started, because after that, he's gonna have just a couple good punts in a row. The type of stuff that I personally love to see, but honestly, I think it's a little underappreciated, such as a 49-yard punt to pin them inside their own 20 and force a fair catch, then another very acceptable, very good, very delightful 47-yard punt, once again forcing a fair catch. And then one more before the half, he hits another liner, gives the returner flashbacks to his previous muff. The guy says no, don't want anything to do with it, takes a bounce, netting all 51 yards that ball would eventually travel. But then in the second half, James Burnip says, you know what, all that not scoring business, no, we're not feeling it. So he comes back out and turns on the afterburners, or the afterburnips, if you will, with a 54-yard attempt that he launches. And the returner is going to return it 8 yards, only to barely start them outside of the 10-yard line. But on his next punt, that slow chipping away at field position would finally pay off as he launches just a gorgeous punt, guys. It goes right near the sideline. The returner says, I can't really do much about that, lets it bounce, and it checks all the way down to the 11-yard line. Now here, Michigan's punter is going to try to get them back in it, but a 42-yard punt compared to a 62-yard punt means that the Alabama Rolling Tide offense is going to start rolling at, you guessed it, the minus 45-yard line, meaning that they're just 5 yards from midfield. And with this going in their direction, they finally were able to turn on some points. Then they later go on and get a field goal to tie the game up, and with all of that in their favor, they still get a little tense at the end of the game when 54 seconds left on the clock, Michigan calls a timeout, forcing Alabama to punt, saying, hey, we want the ball back. And James Burnip walks his big, meaty Australian legs out there and says, oh, you're gonna try to score? I don't think the fuck you will. And hits a nuke. And the returner is like terrified at this point, okay? Wants so little to do with the ball, he catches it and goes, Burnip, where'd you say you wanted that ball at? Oh, you wanted it at the 1-yard line? Yeah, we're gonna make that happen for you, okay? Muffs it, puts it on the 1-yard line, immediately gets tackled, wrapped up at the 1. Now Michigan has to just try to survive instead of trying to make any drive happen. They can't even take a knee from right here. And yes, this game would go to overtime, and yes, Alabama would go on to lose. But goodness gracious, you cannot tell me that their punter, James Burnip, was not the reason this entire game that they were even here to begin with. So, hell of a game, James.